start recording. So we're going to look at something called an auto tile set. And it takes a little bit more work to set up, but once you set it up, it makes it a lot easier to design an interesting scene. And so I think the setup that we can look at is easy enough to follow, that you guys should be able to do it. And I'll go over the steps for making it work. So to do this, instead of creating it from scratch, I'm going to get a template. And there's a template on the Godot website. So if I look up Godot AutoTile on Google, here's this tile maps thing that we looked at last class. And so this first one is just kind of like a regular tile map, but down here we get into auto tiles. So I'll put a link to this in the video, and you can see there's a couple different ways to make auto tiles. One is this like kind of simple generic way, and then another is this like larger map that includes a lot of different options. And I'm gonna go with this one just because since we're gonna do it, we might as well do all the different options. And it works the same way with these other simpler ones. And they even have like more complex ones. Like this one I'm gonna do is just basically like stuff that you can walk on and stuff that you can't. But when you get to more complex things, this is like for top-down 3/4 perspective. And so it has 3 different parts. It has the floor, a wall, and then the top of the walls. So you can make like a dungeon crawler or something like that. Top-down in 3/4 perspective, top-down wall in 3/4 perspective with thick walls. So there's a few different ways that you can do this that get increasingly more complicated. The one that I'm going to do is kind of like in the middle of complexity. It's this one right here, but it's just on off. And there's this image that we can use as a template. So it's actually pretty easy once you just, have the image to just fill it in. So I'm going to go ahead and download this image. I'm going to right click on the image and go to open image in a new tab. And that opens the image in the browser. And now I can save it. So I'm going to hit Control S to save the image. And I'm going to go to my desktop and go to my game folder and go to the art folder, and I will make a new, or I guess I'll just put this in scenery. And yeah, I'll save this image in scenery. And you can see it says auto tile template 3x3 minimal. So we're just going to keep that in mind. And so now I've got this template, and so that way I don't have to like remember how this works. So now I can open the template in Pascal and just draw on top of it. And you could actually do this with any image, like if you wanted to trace an image in Pascal, or use an image as the basis for an animation, you could do it this way. So I'm going to open up Pascal. I'm going to make it big, and I'm going to import this auto tile map that I got. I'm going to go to import this little folder here, and then click Browse Images because I want an image. And it's already open to my scenery folder. So I can just grab it there, but if it wasn't open there, I would just go to my desktop, go to my game, go to the art folder, go to the scenery folder, and grab this template and click open. And so now I have some options here. I can import as a single image, or I can break it up into a sprite sheet. And so depending on what your approach to this design is, you might want to do different things. I'm just going to import as a single image. And I don't want to smooth resize because it is pixels, so I'm just going to turn that off, and I'm going to click import. And it says this is going to replace your current animation. That's fine. I'm going to click OK. And so now I have this nice template that I can draw on top of. And I can either draw directly onto this part, or I can make a new frame and turn on my onion skin and draw over it. You could even just like, dump a color in here. But I'm going to do a drawing on top of it. So the thing that's nice about this is it has a grid built into it. And so we can see like how big my pixels should be. So if I go to the resize, I can see it's 768 by 256. And I could do the math to figure out how big that grid is, or I could just go to my settings and make a grid and line it up with the purple lines. So I'm going to go to settings and go to the grid area and click enable grid. And then I want to choose a grid color that will stand out. So maybe I'll choose like orange. And then I'm going to change the grid spacing. And so I just want to find one that lines up with the purple. And so if I go, you can see like as it gets smaller, I have these smaller and smaller grids. But I want one that just lines up with the purple grid, which it does now. And then I can change the size of the lines. And so this looks good. So I know that this is going to work for my Pascal, and I know that it's 64 by 64, so I'm going to remember that for when I import it into Pascal. And that's going to be the same if you use this image. There's other images like this that you can find online, but let's just remember that this is 64 by 64, and that's our grid spacing. So each one of our units is going to be 64 by 64. So now for my design, I have my little tablet. I'm just going to draw outlines around these areas. And I'm essentially going to recreate what I drew on Tuesday. But now I'm going to use these blocks as like kind of these borders. And I'm going to draw outlines around them and then fill them in. So it looks a little bit more custom and hand-drawn. So I'm going to choose like a dirt color for the outside. And I'm going to try to do this quickly, but I'm just going to kind of draw. Let's actually do a larger N here. I'm just going to kind of draw an outline. And you'll see when we put this in Godot, this is going to make more sense. But I'm just drawing an outline around each one of these pink shapes, which represents things that my character can walk on. And basically what is happening here is, let's turn off the onion skin for a second. Basically what's happening here is it's creating all the different types of like paths that could be connected together in different ways. So I have the dirt outline and I'm going to fill it in with like a green color for grass. So I'm just going to fill these guys in. So that's the basic process for filling this out. And I'm just going to try to quickly do the rest of my grid. So I'm going to get the pen tool back and I'm just going to outline each one of these things. And the nice thing about this template is even if I don't really fully understand how this works, it's going to work when I put it into Godot. So I do have to be able to draw straight lines. Okay, so I'll outline this, then outline this part, and this part. And when we get to the second or the third and fourth, like kind of big areas, we're going to have to think a little bit about the best way to color it in. And you'll also be able to see what it looks like when you import it into Godot, and you can always come back to this and make adjustments if you need. Okay, so I'm just outlining these areas. And down here. And these are like where the paths are going to connect. So for these ones, it's pretty simple because these are areas where the path like directly connects. So I don't have to be that careful. But when we go over here, you can see that there's these areas where the path doesn't go to. And so I don't actually want to draw on these edges. I only want to draw on edges that are inside of the boxes. So anything that lines up with a grid marker, I don't want to draw on those edges. So I want to draw like here, like this, and I want to draw down here. But anything that's just on the grid itself, exactly, like I can cross over the grid like this, but I don't want to draw on the grid line there. And I don't want to draw on the grid line here. And you'll see what it looks like when we bring it in. And if you mess any of those up, it's not a big deal. You can always go back and fix it. So I have to scroll over. So I'm going to move this thing over here. And I'll just kind of try to get through this quickly. So again, I want to draw on these edges and this edge. but not this edge here that lines up with the side, because that's where it's going to connect to the rest of the tile set. And then I can draw on these inside edges. That's going to be fine. I'm probably going to screw up something, but if I do, I'll just come back and fix it after. Okay, so now let's fill in these guys and fill in these guys. Okay, so over here, I don't want to fill in this one, but I do want to fill in the inside. Same thing here. So I don't want to fill in these lines that line up exactly. I can fill in these guys and these guys. And then same thing with these, I don't want to fill in these lines that have to cross over. But these ones I do want to fill in. And same thing here. Obviously I can't go across there, so I'm not going to fill in this top part. I'm going to fill in the outline here and down here. Oops, got a little bit off there. And I'm kind of trying to go quickly because we don't have a ton of time in class, but you can obviously spend more time on this, put more detail in, and either I like the kind of sketchiness of like drawing over this, but you could also do something that's a little bit more clean. And then this side, these are all just like sides, so I don't want to fill in any of those at all. So that is looking pretty good. Now I want to fill in my colors. So I'm going to fill in green in this area. Oh, whoops. So I'll fill in green. So green is like grass, just places where we can walk. Over here, it's going to be a little bit trickier because I have these edges. So if I fill an area green, it's going to fill the whole thing. So what I need to do first is fill in some of the water that I'm going to have around here. So I'm going to choose another color, and everything that's not inside these kind of like islands is going to be water. And so in order to be able to fill that in, I'm just going to put a little water on the edge here and down here. And for the bucket to work, I just need to like fill that area so it doesn't go through. Okay, and now I should be able to fill this in. Nope. Okay, where did I miss? Probably up here. Okay, let's fill in here. Okay. I can fill in these little circles here, and then there we go. So that looks better. And then in here, these two areas are going to be water. Those are off areas. Then I have to fill in this edge with water and this edge over here. So this might be kind of not make that much sense, but it all makes sense when you see it in the Godot engine. And then I'm going to fill in this whole, whoops, okay, I didn't completely cover, probably up here maybe. Okay, let's try the green again. There we go. Okay, almost done. So now in this area, now I've got to draw a lot of water around here. So I got to draw some right. Oops, not grass, but water here. And then I should be able to fill that in. Okay. And then here I can fill in, here I can fill in. Oh, no. Let's see, I need to fill in probably this dirt right here. Let's see. Maybe down here. Okay, let's try it again. There we go. Okay, almost done. Just have to fill in some water to block off these areas and these areas. And I'm just using the bucket tool to fill in to save myself time, but you could also just like draw in the whole thing. So you don't have to like spend all this time trying to make sure it all connects. I'm actually going to turn off the grid for a second so I can see where this isn't going through. Oh, right here. Okay, and let's turn it back on. Okay, then we have this water area down here. And I think I'm almost done. Now I can just fill in the rest of this green. Okay, sweet. I've got it. I think this is right. We'll see if it looks bad in Godot, but I think this is what we want. So I'm almost done. So I've got my art, and I want to make sure to save this because I may need to adjust it later. So I want to save it as a Pascal file. So I'm going to hit Command S to save. You can also go to Save and click Save As. And so I'm in Art and in Scenery, and it's already called AutoTile Template since it took the name from the image. So I'm going to go with that. That's fine. I definitely will probably want to edit this later. So I want to save this the way it is. And I also want to leave the tile map there. So instead of exporting a sprite sheet or anything like that, I'm going to go to Export and go to Others. And I'm going to export just the selected frame as a PNG. So that way I can just get the art. And so now I'm going to call this Scenery AutoTile. And I'm probably not going to have other auto tiles, but if you did, you might want to put like 3x3 here so you know what it is. And I'm going to click Save. Okay, so I'm done with the art part. So I can leave Pascal. And now I'm going to go over to Godot. So I'll just double click on the Godot app and go to my game and click Edit. So now setting up the auto tile is a little tricky, but once we finish that, it's really powerful. So it's going to be cool. So here's my first scene. So I'm going to duplicate this scene and just replace the tile set with an auto tile. So I'm going to right click on the scene and click duplicate. I'm going to do stuff like this a lot when I'm just trying to like demonstrate or test something so I can leave the basic scene the way it is. So I'm just going to call this auto tile scene. And I'll just go ahead and refresh this tile set. Actually, I should probably just delete it because I don't know if it keeps some of the data. So I'm just going to delete this tile map. And then I'm going to click on the main scene and click plus, type in tile map, and drag it up to the top again. So now I'm going to create my auto tile. So part of this is just like what we did on Tuesday. I'm going to click on my tile map and go to the tile set and click on empty and click new tile set. And then I'm going to click here, and that's going to bring up my tile set editor. So let's make this bigger. And I'm going to click the plus button to get my new auto tiles. So I'll go to sprites, and there's my scenery auto tile. Click open. And we should see the grid does not align. So we're going to have to fix that. But we have to create the auto tiles before we can fix that. So I'm going to click new auto tile. And now I can click on the region and go to snap options. And I'm going to change the snap options to 64 by 64 to match the art. Okay, so now we can see it matches what we saw in Pascal. Okay, so now with the auto tile, what I have to do is set up the bit mask. And the bit mask is the thing that kind of tells Godot where to connect the tiles. And because we have this nice template, it's actually quite easy to do. We just have to follow the directions. So But before I do that, I have to go to this selected tile that I just created. And this has some options. Down here, it says auto tile bit mask. And we are not doing 2x2, we're doing 3x3 minimal. So I need to change that. And then the subtile size, I don't know if that matters. Let's see. So I'm going to go to bit mask. And so when I draw in the bit mask, notice that, okay, so yeah, I think I have to change the subtile size. Okay, there we go. So now the red bits that I draw on this grid should roughly match the art. If they don't, then you need to play around with the settings. So you need to make sure the tile size matches, and you have 3x3 minimal set. If you have both of those things right, it should work. And so now I should be able to draw these bits that connect the parts of the tile. And I just want to draw them over the green parts. So basically, this region, so I just have to keep adding to this bit mask. Oh, whoops. Okay, let's put the region here. There's the bit mask. And then I just click new tile, bit mask, da 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 da. No. Oh, okay, maybe I need to make the region bigger. Let's delete this region. Okay, let's make a new auto tile, and do I have to tell it to be 3x3 every time? That seems crazy. Okay, let's delete this. Let's try new auto tile. Click here, 3x3. Oh, there we go. Okay, I just need to select the whole thing. Okay, so let's zoom out a little bit. And I just want to select this whole area. Okay, now I can add in the bit mask. So now I go over to bit mask, choose 3x3 minimal, and now I just draw on anything that is the ground. And this uses a algorithm within Godot to know how to connect these tiles. It's a little bit confusing to explain, but essentially each tile is like a box, and the bits actually say what needs to be connected to each side of this box. And so once we put all this in, what we're going to be able to do is draw new platforms, and it'll generate a new platform for whatever we want to draw. So it's actually really cool once we get this working. I'm just going to fill all this stuff in. And once I'm done, we're going to do a couple other things, but I'm going to try to demonstrate how it works first. Okay, so I just have to draw all over this map, this bit mask. Okay, almost done. There's probably a faster way to do this, but I'm not really sure what it is. Okay. All right, so we're almost done. Okay, so I've got all my bits. Let's zoom out a little bit and make sure we got everything. Sweet, okay. So I'm gonna come back to this and make some changes in a second, but for now I'm gonna do some drawing. So I'm gonna click on my tile map, and now my grid doesn't quite match because I had it 32 by 32 before. So I'm gonna go to configure snap and change this to 64 by 64. And now look what happens when I draw a tile. So I have two. Why do I have two tiles here? Okay, let me make sure. Let's name this tile. So main auto. And then I'll go back here. Okay, I don't know what this is. I don't know why there's two, but let's just go with main auto. Oh, and then another thing that I like to set is I can go to icon and choose this little guy down here with just looks like a little island. And so now I can see which one this is by just finding that little icon. And so now we're ready to actually show what this does. So if I click here, it's going to automatically know how to connect these tiles. So if I have one tile, and let's put this in the background. So let's go to z-index and do -1. So when I put a second tile here, and I should have spent a little more time cleaning up this drawing, but because this is a little offset, but now you can see what's happening is it's actually connecting my tiles. So I can draw as much as I want, and it's going to connect my tiles for me. So I can draw some tiles to make sure I'm covering everything down here, and I can go down here, and now I can start to make different things over here. The one thing that it's not going to do is fill in the water for me. So we do need to make a separate tile for that. But for now, I'm not going to worry about that. And you can have like multiple tile sets on top of each other. But this is really the advantage of the auto tile, is that I can just draw whatever I want, and it's going to fill in this space for me. So it's really easy to build levels that way. It makes it a lot faster to design a level. You can make more detailed tiles and then fill them in. And so now notice that there's a few things here that are a little bit off. Like I can see some water here, some water down here. Some of my things don't line up. So some of those things, if they don't bother you, you can just leave them. I kind of like to have a little bit of sketchiness. But if they bother you, we can just go back and change the art and it'll fix it. So I'm just going to try to fix one of these issues, the little water that's here, these little waters here. So I'm going to save Godot, and I'm going to go back to Pascal. And I'm going to open up my project. So I'm going to go browse Pascal and choose my auto tile. And so now I'm going to try to find where that water was. So I'm going to turn on my grid again and try to find somewhere that's overlapping. So let's see, I think it's like right here. Yeah, it's definitely like here. So now I can do a little bit more like fine detail here because I don't want to overlap with the grass either, but I can just see, I already screwed that up. Can I zoom in? Yeah. So I just need to fill in, oops, this up to this edge. So it goes right up to the edge, but not over. Actually, I'm going to use the line tool because this way I can just hold shift and it won't let me move around. Okay, so I filled up that edge. This edge is going to be an issue as well. So to make it look perfect, you really have to line up all these edges. So like here, these should be water. I'm going to zoom in and just clean that up. And then down here, this should be grass. So I'm going to use the line tool, clean that up, and then clean up the dirt right here. So that should fix a lot of the issues already. Let's zoom in over here and see. Yeah, there's some grass overlapping here. So we can take some water, and then same thing over here. Just take some grass out. Oh, and then this is a big one. Okay. I'm fixing more than I really need to, but now that I'm doing it, I'm kind of obsessing. Okay, let's fix that. Oh, but I did too much. Let's fix this part. Oh, and then this is like completely transparent. So, okay, I'm going to fix this and then I'm going to go back. Okay, so I fixed the things that I want to fix. I just have to export again. So again, I'm going to click export, go to others, click download, and I'm just going to replace this. So I just want to click on this, make sure it's the same name, and click save, and click yes, I want to replace. And when I go back to Godot, look at that, it's already fixed. So it's already re-imported everything and it's fixed those areas. I still have some areas that I need to clean up, like right here, but that's pretty easy as far as fixing things that I screwed up. So yeah, that's kind of the process. Oh, I screwed up a bunch of stuff. So I might fix that later, but I'll move on for now. Okay, so next thing we want to add is some collisions. And this is where it's going to get a little bit tricky because I want to be able to use this in two different contexts. One where it's this RPG style, and one where it's a platform style. And so in order to do that, I don't want to do all the work again. So I'm actually going to save this tile set. So I'm going to save this. I'm going to click, I'm going to go over the tile set. And a lot of times I don't bother to save these things. I just leave them there. But if I want to reuse it in a different way, then I need to save it. So I'm going to click on the down arrow for the tile set and click save. And I'm going to go back. And I don't have a folder for this yet, so I'm going to create a new folder called tile sets. And I'm going to call this auto tile 3x3. And then this one is RPG style. Okay, so I'm going to save that. And before I add the collisions, I'm just going to duplicate this. So I'm going to right click and click duplicate. And now I'm going to have auto tile 3x3 platform. And so depending on what type of game you're making, you may want an RPG style, you may want a platform. You don't necessarily need both, but if you want both, this is the best way to do it so you don't have to repeat your work. Okay, so now that I've done that, I can edit the platform one, and those edits won't be applied to the RPG one because I just duplicated it. Now it's a copy, but they're not linked anymore, so I can make changes without it affecting both of them. Okay, so now I'm going to come back here and I'm going to add some collisions. And so this is how I can prevent the player from moving to these parts of the space. And so this is going to be a little bit tricky because I'm going to need to draw collisions only in the blue area. Maybe if we change the snap options, that won't be an issue. Now, can I do this? There we go. That I changed the wrong thing. Okay, so now I can actually fill in these areas without having to click on everything the same way. Okay. So I had set the subtile, but what I really wanted to set was the snap options. So now this will be more reasonable to fill this in. All right, guys. So I'm recording again. Sorry about earlier in class when I got frustrated with the collision. So I think what happened in part was that I was just like really moving too fast, trying to get too much done at once. So that's something that we definitely want to watch out for. So I'm going to go through this again. I realized that part of the reason that the shortcut key was not working is you have to be kind of careful about the order that you do it in. So yeah, I think I can do it a little bit faster this time. I'm going to probably speed this up in the video though, because it is quite tedious. And so I'm going to go through this one more time and then add the platformer. And then at the end of this video, I reconfigured the tile sets in the assets folder. Actually, I made a whole new tile sets download that you can plug into your own project. So you don't have to go through this tedious work on your own. But again, it's good to know how this stuff works. And so you might want to try it just to see how it goes. Anyway, I'm going to add in my collisions now. And I'm going to be a little bit more careful this time. So I'm going to click on here. And now what I realize is that I really need to click before I do on the area before I use Shift R. So once I click on the right area and use Shift R, now I can make my collisions in the water areas like I want to. The problem was that I was trying to then go to the next tile before I was trying to go to the add to the next tile before clicking on it. So if I click on it first and then hit Shift R, it does let me go through. So this is actually much faster because I don't have to keep moving my hand or my mouse back up to the box. But there it goes. It didn't work again. So notice that the arrow and the box are both selected. So yeah, I'm not exactly sure what the deal with that is. So occasionally I am going to have to go up there. So I think that's actually a glitch in Godot. And I'm not really sure if there's anything we can do to fix it for ourselves, but being aware of it is good. So I don't, so I'm not confused when it's not working. Anyway, you can see this is much, much faster because I'm not having to move my mouse back up to that little box icon every time I want to add a new collision. So I have to add the collisions within these tiles. It would be nice if I could add them to the whole area. Oh, there we got stuck again. Not exactly sure what triggers it. I think it also, I have to keep holding shift. Maybe that's what it is. If I keep holding shift. Okay, I'm not exactly sure. Something buggy in Godot, but it's working now. Holding shift down actually seems to be really helping here. Oh yeah, now I'm really moving. Okay. So if I just keep holding shift, that seems to make it less buggy. So what I'm doing is I'm just holding shift down, and then every time I want a new collision area, I'm just hitting the R key. And that toggles a new box, and then I can draw where I want that box to be. And slowly, oh, and then I just made a mistake. See, I filled in this whole area, just hit the trash can. Okay, so I'll just redo that. Yeah, so this is a bad combo for frustrating things because the boxes are small. I have to set the tile, then draw the box. Anyway, I'm still going much faster now that I've worked out the issue with the key command. It's also not, you have to be really precise with where you click. I have to get close enough to that top left corner to get the area I want. And then I just have to drag it until the red dots match the area I want to fill in with a collision. Oops. So that happened. Again, I made a mistake where I tried to start drawing the next collision before I changed area. And slowly we can see there's this orange highlight that represents our collisions that's filling up all the areas that have water. And when you do it with the key command and you don't make too many mistakes, this really isn't too bad. All right, look at that. That was pretty fast. So we've got all of our collisions filled in. And if we look at the bit mask, we can see that the bit mask is the opposite of the collisions for our RPG. So where we want to connect our tiles is the opposite of where we want to block the player. And that's going to switch when we move over to the platform. So I'm going to choose my icon. Already did that. Go back to region and let's make sure that, okay. So that's my main auto tile. And now the last part I wanted to do was add in the water. And I did this too fast last time and I ended up messing some things up. So let's be a little bit more slow this time. So I'm going to change the steps back to 64 by 64. And we want to take this tile as our water, but that needs to be a single tile. So I'm going to save this and then I'm going to click new single tile and I'm going to select the water tile. And so now it's already a single tile here. And so I'm just going to call this our water tile. And so now this should be set up the way I want it to be. And so I'm going to click on the tile map to go back here. And now when I play the scene, my character should get blocked by the water, but he can walk on any of the green areas. And you can still see there's some details I need to clean up. And also I can kind of overlap here, so I might want to reset where my character's collider is. But yeah, I would probably just set the character collider instead of trying to redraw these. But that looks pretty close. And then the last little bit I want to do here, let's close my output, is fill in the water. So I'm going to click here and just fill in the water. And you can't really get to the water, but if you want to make a collision around the water, you can. So let's fill in all this water here. And so there's collisions that lead up to all the water, but let's actually put a collider there just in case for some reason, and walk up to some water. Okay. Yeah, I forgot to put a collision. Let's go back. And then again, to cycle through our tiles, we want to hit these arrows. So I have my main auto. This scenery auto I don't want, so let's delete that one. Okay, there's my water. There's my main auto. So let's go back to our water. And now I'm going to add a collision here. So I'm just going to click the box and fill in there. Okay, so I can't really get over there anyway, but just to be safe, now I have the collision on those water tiles as well. Okay, so now I've got my setup much better. And this is the RPG style. So I'm just in a 2D world. There's no gravity. I'm just kind of creating this map that I could walk. And so for this one, this is with collisions. You don't necessarily need collisions in an RPG style game because you could just let the player walk wherever, but it's nice to be able to have that as a possibility. Okay, so that's our RPG auto tile. So I'm going to do one more example, and this time I'm going to use my platformer. And so this one was my RPG. Let's make sure that's right. Yeah. I'm going to save this, and I'm going to create a new scene. So I'm going to go back to my first scene and duplicate it again, and call it Auto Tile Platform. And so I'm going to open that up, and here's my tile map. I'm going to reset this, and now I'm going to add in the duplicated platform tile map. So I'm going to go load, go to tile sets, and choose the platform. And this is going to basically be exactly the same. The only real difference here is that I'm going to do the opposite for my collisions. So my collisions will be on the green parts, and you'll see how that's going to work is that my character is going to be standing on the green parts. So I'm going to go back here and cycle through my tiles. So there's my main auto tile, and we can see that's the big region, and the bit mask is going to stay the same. So I'm not going to change that at all. So that one's good. Here I have the scenery auto tile, which I made by mistake earlier. So I'm just going to go ahead and go to region and click the trash can. And so now I just have my main auto tile. So now I'm going to add in my collision, but this time I'm going to do the opposite of what I did before. Instead of filling in the water, I'm going to fill in the grass. So I'm going to change the step again to 16 by 16. And now I'm just going to fill in these areas that are green. And there we go. So again, if I can use the key commands, this will go much faster. And I just have to be careful about holding Shift and then hitting R at the right time. So these don't overlap exactly, and that's okay for this part. It's not going to be exactly precise. Again, this is probably something where if I wanted it to be more precise, I'd spend a little bit more time on the artwork, making sure everything lined up exactly. Or I can play around with the character collider and make sure it's not overlapping. But let's fill this in first, and then we'll see if it's really bad. We can always make some adjustments, but I think it should be okay just for this. So again, I'm just holding Shift and I'm hitting R to create a new box and then drawing where I want the box to go. And since I have 16 by 16 grid over a 64 by 64, I'm dividing these little areas up. And so that makes it easier to select the parts where I want to hide or where I want to have my collisions going. And so when I'm done with this, what we'll see is just an orange layer that covers all the green areas. And so again, this is going to take me a second, but it's way faster than what I was doing before because I've figured out how to get this key command to act nice with me. So I'm still missing some areas. So again, I'm just holding Shift and then tapping R each time I want to add a new collision box. The trick is I have to select each tile before I start to add collisions, so I don't want to get ahead of myself. And each time I have to hold Shift, hit R, and I get a new box. And this is a lot faster. I'm a lot less annoyed at Godot right now. Oops, I made a mistake there. So let's go back and just delete that one. And it's still there, so let's delete and try that again. So Shift R, so just filling in these blocks. And you want to make these bigger blocks so it's a little bit more efficient, but if you miss by a little bit, you can just keep going. Okay, getting pretty close. My art definitely needs some more work. I should have fixed all those details while I was getting this new part ready. But maybe I'll do that and then edit it out. Video. Oops, that one was too big, so I'll just delete. Try again. Looks like this one has 2 collisions. It's not the end of the world, but I'm just going to delete this. Okay, now that looks even. Okay, one more column to go. Okay, and let's go back to region, or we can keep collision and zoom out, and it looks like we got everything. Okay, so there's my platformer. We got to add the water again, but this time I don't want a collision on it. So I'm going to go back to region, new single tile, grab this little water guy, and I'm not going to put a collision here because this part in the platformer version of this tile map, the player should be going, which is really kind of more like Sky now. Okay, so now what I'm going to do to show that this works is I'm going to turn on the player's gravity. And so now I can draw some platforms for the player to jump on. I'm just going to draw a platform here, and I'll draw a platform here, one over here, see if we can get up there. I might have to give the player a higher jump value at some point. But anyway, we can give them some areas to jump, and then let's fill in some air, sky, water, whatever you want to call this. This is just the parts that are not the platforms. Oops. And what I should do is just make the background the same color so I don't have to spend all this time drawing in. That would actually be probably much smarter. Maybe X. I'll try that. Anyway, so now I've got some platforms. And so these platforms, since the collisions are on the green parts, we're going to see that the player is going to fall onto the platform. Oh, and we're getting an error. Getting an error because the player does not have a sound that I need. Okay, so when that happens, the easiest thing to do, we'll add these sounds in later, but for now I'm just going to hit Control K on these sounds to comment them out. And so it'll just ignore it, and I don't have to worry about it for now. So let's go back to our scene and try it again. Okay, so now see the player is standing on top of the platform. And I hit jump, nothing happened. So we've got to figure out what's up with that. But if I jump off the platform, I fall down. Okay, so let's figure out, oh, we've got some errors. Oh, I don't have an input for jump. I guess I didn't do this before. So let's go add it real quick. So let's go to the input map. Okay, so I have move right, move left, move up, move down. Let's put in jump here. Not sure why I didn't do it before. So let's add in jump, and I'll put a key. I'll put X, jump, and let's put spacebar as well. Just a couple of normal defaults for jumping. And let's save this. And then I'm zoomed in a lot. Let's zoom out a bit on the camera. 0.5 on the camera so we can see a little bit more of our scene. Now, of course, the trees and the signs don't make much sense. I'll move those around in a second. But now, there we go. My player can actually jump on these platforms. Couldn't quite make it over. So let's give the player, so yeah, the player couldn't quite make it here. So I'll go back to my tile map, go back to this one, and well, that's, okay, so we're gonna have to give the player more jump force. So let's try like 600, and let's give them a little more speed as well. Now let's see if we can make that jump, and we can tweak these values later. There we go. Now I'm pretty fast, and I can jump really high. Okay, so we'll have to tweak these values, but at least we can see this is working. And if I jump off my platforms, now I'm disappearing. So we're going to talk a lot more about designing levels in the future. This probably doesn't look like the most exciting level, but we will talk a bit about level design. And so the scenery doesn't quite work here. Maybe I'll see if I can just quickly move some stuff. Here's my forest. Oh, there's my sign. So maybe put this sign over here. Oh, and I have the snap configured to be larger. So let's just turn that off, and we'll put a sign here, and I'll put this sign maybe over here, and maybe I'll put some platforms over there later. Grab our forest, and oh, the forest is locked. So let's turn it lock. Okay, maybe we'll put our forest up here, and our other forest over here, and our birds. Let's put our birds down here. So I don't know why they can hang out inside the platforms and I'm stuck on top, but at least now we can see scenery. Whoops. Okay. So now you can see how you can create a platformer with tiles or an RPG with tiles. So one last thing I'm going to go over. So I reset up how you can get these tile sets into your program because I think the way I had it set up in the assets is a little bit too confusing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this, and then I'm going to demonstrate how to get these tile sets because I uploaded versions of these tile sets. All right, so now what I'm going to do is show you guys how to grab these tile sets from the website and just replace your own art. So you just have to be careful to make sure that your art is named correctly. So to do an example of that, I'm just going to add in the tile sets here, and I'll just show you what happens if you don't have the art named correctly. So I do have this art here with the right name, and I'm just going to rename this, and I'm just going to put like a little, just a tiny little underscore at the beginning. And so you'll see what will happen if I try to import the tile map and the art isn't correct. And hopefully what you can do is just add these tile maps if you don't want to go through building them yourself. You just have to create the art and then use the tile map from the assets to add it in here. It's a little bit tricky, but I'll show you what you need to do. So I'll start with the RPG version. And I'm just going to hide this tile map and make a new one. So I'll go to add child node, tile map, and so we'll just do a different tile map here. And I'll probably just delete this at the end, but I just want you to show you guys what the process looks like. So I'm going to save this, and I'm going to download the tile sets that I created for you guys. So I'm going to go to the website and go to labs, and I'll put a link in this to the video. And so I made a new assets folder. I made a couple adjustments in there, and I also just removed the tile sets and put them in our own folder just to make this a little easier. So you can download the new assets folder if you want, and really we just need to download the new tile sets. So once you have that downloaded, I'm going to open up my game in one window. There we go. And then I'm going to open a new File Explorer window and go to my downloads. And there's my new tile sets and my assets. I need to extract both of these because they're zip files. So on Mac, you can just double click and it'll extract. On here, I need to go to extract all. I'm going to extract it to the downloads first. And you can see there's my folder. Sometimes, okay, so if I open this, you'll see their tile sets is inside the tile sets folder. So that's a little annoying, but just drag this tile sets over here. And it has 270 at the beginning. So if you already have a tile sets folder, it won't conflict with that. It'll just put it at the top here. If you want to replace the new assets, you can extract the assets. And I think this is going to do the same thing if you add in the folder there by default. So this won't happen on Mac because it's just going to open it right there, but this will happen on Windows where it creates like an extra folder. Oh wait, no, this one actually is right. Okay, I don't know why it's different, but anyway, whoops, I put that in tile sets. Okay, I need to take my own advice and not do things too quickly. So let's throw this over here now. That was the wrong one. Oh, I just deleted it. Okay, so let's do that. Okay, here we go. So now I'm gonna move this to game. It's gonna ask me if I want to replace stuff. So I'll just say replace the files in destination. Most of it is the same, but I added some extra stuff in there and took out the tiles. Okay, well, oh, these are the old tile sets. Okay, so let's just delete these. Okay, so those were still left there from the old version of the asset. Anyway, now we have our new tile set. So this is, you can make the tile sets on your own following the instructions if you want to, but if you want to just use the ones that I created, this is how you're going to do it. So now there's some tile sets in here. And so there's a 3x3 auto tile, the 3x3 with platforms. So it has collisions in the off areas or the water, or sorry, that's the RPG. And then the platforms has the collisions on the on areas or the grass so that your player falls. So for this one, we want to do the RPG. So you'll see what's going to happen if I try to add this tile map and I don't have the correct art here. So I changed the name of this art just to show what will happen. When I go to add the tile set, I'm going to go to the new 270 tile sets and go to RPG and click open. And notice that the images are gone. Okay, so that's not going to work. What's going to happen is that it's going to break. And unfortunately, there's not really a good way to get around that. And so if you do that by mistake, what we need to do is actually just delete. I'm just going to delete this and we're going to replace it. Okay, so we are going to go back. I still have, here's my game with the 270 tile sets. And so let's just delete this folder so we know that we're doing this. And now let's go back to our downloads. And if you haven't deleted the zip file, it still should be there. So let's extract it again. Still have a folder here. Okay. Let's delete that. So let's extract our tile sets again. So I'm going to go to extract all and click extract. Okay. And so let's try it one more time. So this time I know that my image is named correctly. I went in here and I fixed the scenery. I took out that underscore. So now when I go to my tile map and I click load and I go to my tile sets, now see those images are there. So it can find the image and now I can create my tiles. Let's put the Z index and there we go. And this should have the collisions already built into it. So let's test that. So yes, so we can't go past the ground. We can only go on the green part. Okay. So same thing with the platformer. So you have to make sure that this is named correctly or it's going to break. And if it breaks, you can't fix it. You have to re-download it or reinstall it. So let's do the same thing with the platformer. I'm just going to hide this and add a new tile map. And now this time, if I go to load and go to 270 tile sets, here's the platformer. There's my images there because the image is named correctly. And if I add a nice little platform here, I'm just going to test this real quick. Oh, okay. So now we've got a little platform and the collisions are set. Okay. So tile sets are a bit of a complicated component of Godot, but hopefully that's enough that you guys will be able to kind of work with these if you need to. So yeah, let me know if you guys have any questions, and we'll wrap up our scenery bit when we come back in what will be a couple of weeks and do the backgrounds, and then we'll have the assignment due the following Tuesday. So we are getting a little bit off track, or not off track, but just delayed. But that's okay. We will just keep going with it.